Hey there, and welcome to Darkness Dissected. My name is Suzanne, and today we're looking at another urban legend. Now, I'm pretty good with most horror movies, not saying I'm a huge fan of gore for the sake of it, but I can usually cope with most spooky stuff. One thing that really does hit a nerve with me though is mental hospitals. They just scream horror, fear and desperation. They certainly give you the willies, right? Well, today we're looking at the Ridge Home Asylum. This urban legend is not going to give you any relief from the feeling of the willies. In 1909, it was planned by the state of Colorado to open up a mental hospital to be named Ridge Home. It was a plan that was 310 acres, 2 miles west of Arvada. The home opened its doors in Arvada, Colorado for its very first patients in July of 1912. By 1936, there were 260 patients residing there out of a possible 300. The sad thing is, if you were sent to this hospital, you were more likely than not going to stay there for the rest of your life. In all the time that the hospital was up and running, it was plagued with so many issues and complaints. So let's try and break this down as best we can to see the many problems that this hospital had. Now, in the 1940s, it is said that forced sterilisation was practised on a regular basis on its patients. We are angered currently by the injustices that women are facing with abortion rights and having no control over what happens to our bodies. So can you imagine having that right taken away from you completely? Yearning for a child, but never having the opportunity due to some asshat taking it away from you. Saying that though, I'm pretty sure that they didn't want all their patients getting up to mischief and them having to open a maternity ward. You have to remember that some of these patients were vulnerable for sexual assault, so it was probably a factor in the decision made by whichever board of directors was involved. Shame they did not offer birth control instead though back then, but birth control pills did not come about until 1960. In the 1950s, one administrator was noted saying that many adult patients are competent enough to live alone, but their families had abandoned them to the hospital. It was also noticed that many entered the hospital sound-minded, but due to the living conditions and treatment received, they were no longer able to live among society. Poor testing and patients being young when entering the asylum were blamed for this oversight. When the 1970s came around, the problems were still happening. The hospital was ordered to close due to cracks appearing in walls and also the foundation of the buildings shifting. There was also a fire safety problem brought about by the lack of fire escapes available and exit paths for emergencies. By the 1980s, residents were being neglected due to the understaffing issues that they had. Lack of funds to the hospital meant cutbacks on staff and proper training that was needed for looking after the patients. It was reported that there was human waste in corridors and people were not getting the help that was needed due to, again, not being enough carers. Things only got worse when a member of staff was sent to prison for bragging about the treatment that they dished out working at the hospital. The boasts of abuse towards multiple patients was all that was needed for this horrible act to be punished. In 1988, a newspaper reported that homeless people who were wanting some warmth and comfort for the evening, and even thrill-seeking youths, were breaking into the hospital. Now, this obviously did not sit well with locals, not only as it was a working hospital which housed patients, but can you imagine being a family member hearing that you have loved ones in a hospital that has this going on? Also, it's worth noting, if anything had happened to these people breaking in, what would have happened? They may have come across a patient with violent tendencies, or maybe a patient might have gotten injured by someone with torment on their minds, breaking in and hurting them. By 1992, Ridge Home Asylum closed its doors to most patients. The hospital was apparently still used for a while though. In 1994, a psychiatric technician at the hospital named Michael Flewellen, aged just 22, was shot in the face in the northeast parking lot by Wilbur Swift. Apparently Wilbur thought that his wife or girlfriend at the time was seeing Michael behind his back. It is still unknown if the shooting was an accident or not, but many staff reported seeing the incident take place, and many more had to witness the poor sight of Michael's dead body under a white sheet for a day while police investigated the scene. Now, it's said that in April 1999, 22 developmentally challenged sex offenders were housed there for a while. Along with the sad history of events we've discussed, there are said to be reports of rape and other mistreatments too. It really does sound like a very sad, horrible place to not only have resided in, but to have worked in too. In 2004, the Ridge Home Asylum was demolished and there is now a mall where the back half of the Ridge Home property was. Behind that stands a super Target. Now, like many sites which have been home to bloodshed, horror and pain, people have witnessed the unsettled spirits of the old patients roaming the grounds of the asylum, searching for their loved ones or maybe just lost in their own sorrow. One sad truth is known though, in life these poor patients were never allowed to leave Ridge Home and suffered unthinkable abuse. And now it seems that even in death, they're forced to stay in their asylum prison. Is there an abandoned building near you that has a horrible history to it? Tell us about your experiences and maybe one of these sites can be explored in a future episode. Until next time, fellow dissectors, stay safe out there. Bye for now.